Hey everyone, what's up? Felix here. I've got an interesting um, piece of history, like I do sometimes. This is another one of Jerry's things. Jeremiah Silverman, J.H. Silverman is what it says here on the cover of the book. He's a nuclear physicist who obviously went to Yale, and this is his philosophy book from 1941. And it's very interesting to read this because he's actually got notes for a paper here. I think he has a thesis. So I I don't know if this is something that he might have a copy of in his thing somewhere. I know that he has a dissertation in his papers from, I think, his PhD or his graduate work, but this looks to be earlier. This is, I think, yeah, this is before he was in the armed forces. He must have still been in ROTC in college because he was apparently in every theater of the of World War II, which is still blowing my mind. So, or maybe like every major European battle, something like that. I have to do like some deep reading on Jerry's whole freaking life. But I want to do some reading just on what Jerry Dunn did. So this notebook, here's his writing. It's in ink. Looks like just a crow quill pen. I don't know if it was a dip pen. It looks kind of like it might have been, or if it was just like a mechanical pen that had very liquid ink. But it has like nice ink like you associate with a calligraphy ink. Different than the like the petroleum based ink of today. Let's see if you can see it up close. Just see how sometimes it varies in thickness. It's very fluid. The cursive is very nice. It's so this is kind of his notes on it instead of fully written out. So this is going to be a little bit disjointed, and also I'm kind of taking you through this as I look through it myself. Obviously, I'm in a little bit, and it's like I'm gonna go to sleep soon. I just figured that if I did this on camera, I'd be able to sort it out a little bit better. So, it says here, rough outline: the physical theory of nature, Democritus to Leucippus. Then the mathematical theory, medieval world, 1300, Plato. The functional theory, Aristotle. The physical theory of nature, Lucretius, concerning the nature of things, books 1 and 2. Burnet, Thales to Plato, pages 1 to 93. Science and First Principles, chapter 1. Thesis, it's on the next page. The philosophical concepts of all days have been dependent upon the scientific discoveries of the day. Faults of today. Due to fact, we are operating under an outmoded philosophy of 17th century. Outmoded because of new scientific discoveries. Age of electricity not comparable to age of steam. Commonplace man plays no part in modern age. Theoretical mathematical physicists and chemists are the kingpins. Technologically, we have advanced to the 19th century, where, on the other hand, culturally, politically, and morally, we are still in the 17th. The modern world is just as antiquated as the medieval world was. So this is Jerry's thesis, and it's like, this sounds like it's badass. I'm gonna just kind of read through a little bit more of this to kind of sink into, like, this looks like it was him kind of building it. I don't know anything about this field, and what's interesting is that this is an actual thesis in philosophy. And philosophy, physics was in the philosophy department. Until physics was an actual department, was an actual field of its own, it was in the field of philosophy. And so I find it very fascinating that the early nuclear technicians would have all been so grounded in philosophy. I wonder if that's still part of the field so much, or if it kind of died out with Jerry's generation. So, fact. Observed fact, immediately apprehended. Our knowledge of commonplace and scientific objects is indirect and is not immediately apprehended. Described fact, observed fact brought under concepts. Concepts by intuition is one, the complete meaning of which is given by something immediately apprehended. Postulated fact, and nothing written. I think he's taking notes in class. An empirical science, natural history stage, observation, description, classification, concepts by intuition. Aristotle observed and intuitively described the physical sciences. Stage of deductively formulated theory, Newton, concepts by postulation. Primitive, defined, proposition, postulates, theorems, observed fact. It's kind of like a little chart here that's written. So yeah, he's taking notes on things he's looking through for his thesis. For a fuller understanding of the contemporary findings of science, the background from the Greeks must be known. We are to go through a development of scientific beliefs, a reproduction of the historical growth. We begin with a commonplace and common sense viewpoint and hold this until we run against obstacles and make this untenable. One immediately apprehends a field or differentiated manifold, concept by intuition, concepts of intuition, concept of the intuitive differentiated manifold, concept of the intuitive undifferentiated manifold, boundless, concepts of the differentiations, concepts by inspection, concepts by sensation, concepts by introspection, differentiated manifold, nature as many, nature as one, numbers, space, arithmetic, geometry. Nature as many goes to numbers and then arithmetic. The real is number, early Pythagoreans. And then you have nature as one, then space, and then geometry. Arithmetic and geometry correlate. So you have two different approaches that interrelate. They're able to live together, but they are not the same approach, I think. A fundamental issue of philosophy. One is many. Which is primary, geometry or arithmetic? This is the origin of the issue in Greek philosophy. Pardon me for a moment. Gotta have my iced coffee. Real is intuitive stuff. In the Milesian school? The real is physical. This gives rise to issues in physics. Water fails. Boundless, Anaximander. Air, Anaximenes. Real is change, Heraclitus. Science and philosophy begin with what one immediately apprehends. Art is fact without theory. Art, considered for its own sake, deals with immediately experienced materials. I wonder if they mean the more historical art, where like art is like active alchemy, or if they mean like art, like visual art. Parmenides. The Greeks applied formal logic to what they observed and carried these propositions to their logical conclusions. Parmenides shows the two conceptions above to be mutually inconsistent. The real is stuff. A. The principle that the real is physical. B. The principle that the real is being. The real keeps its properties fixed. 2. The real is change. A. Generation. The real changes its properties. B. Motion. The real changes its relation to something other than itself. 1. If the real is nothing but stuff experienced, but nothing but stuff considered as permanent, obeying the principle of being, then change is impossible. A. Change cannot be due to generation. B. Change cannot be motion. 1. The real is one. 2. The real is many. What do you mean by numerical difference? A. Qualitative difference. B. Something to go between them. If motion is an intrinsic property and not a relational property between objects, Parmenides is answered. 1. Real is physical and being. 2. Real is change. 3. If real is nothing but 1, then 2 is impossible. 4. Democritus and Lysippus. The real must be something more than the stuff. There must be a common referent in addition to the many moving particles equals space. Recapitulation of Parmenides' arguments. So I'm going to break off from this for a little bit. Got kind of like drawn into this. I really want to read through this at some point because October 7th, 1940. That's what this is dated right here. Yeah, I think he's in class. Postulates. Real is physical. Real is being. Change exists. That's a postulate of the theorem that distinction between the sense world, the world as immediately apprehended, and real world as conceived in one's scientific theory. What is the distinction between the world one senses and the world one's science tells you about? And the distinctions seem to be real is physical, real is being, change exists. Man, you get to crack into some deep stuff. Physical theory of nature. A. Induction natural philosophy. B. Physics. C. Mathematics. Atoms are... Atoms are sweet, fragrant, or yellow only in their action upon the observer. Is that atoms or something else? Sweet, fragrant, or yellow? Lemons? Apples? It's hard to read. Real is being principle. Brings out principle of identity. Scientific laws are independent of time. Scientific laws are independent of time. Principle of mechanical causation. Let's see. The physical theory of nature. 1. Inductive natural philosophy. 2. Physics. 3. Mathematics. A. Anaximander. He even put down the Greek for that. Boundless. The intuited continuum. The intuited one. Book 1. Euclid. Definition 1 and 2. Any magnitude can be divided. There is a smaller but never a smallest. Theory of actual infinite. Lines are aggregates of infinitely small points. Between any two points there is always a third. Any finite magnitude contains an infinite number of points. So we start getting into how this actually works whenever you really crack the numbers. Early Pythagoreans, character of the object of scientific knowledge, and explanation of the many cases. The pen drags a lot. That creates a little bit of confusion as to what's written sometimes. 2 concept of Lucretius, atoms and the void, extrapolated to explain all reality, metaphysical in scope. Believes in an incubation of motion in animals and humans. This is not deterministic. What is his concept of void? Not fully developed because he doesn't realize the lack of meaning of up and down in an infinite universe. Doesn't realize the lack of meaning of up and down in an infinite universe. Wow. Jerry's like poetic. I don't know if this is he's writing down what his teacher is saying or if he's thinking this. But I really love reading it. This right here is in pencil. Yeah, there's a little bit here that's in pencil. Must have been this one day. Then he had a pen. He must have not brought a pen to class. Yeah, have that every now and then. So, this is a nice little peek into the past. It looks to be his whole class in philosophy. Either that or it was some kind of thesis project that he was taking notes through as he did reading. I'm not sure, because it's like everything's dated, but nothing's really labeled for... I mean, some things are labeled for a book. For instance, English translation, Oxford Press, Volume 2. Over here, Physica 1, 2, and 3. Oh, hey! I might have some of these books that he's labeling. I'll have to take a look and see if any of the books that he mentions in here I actually have in my collection, because I do have quite a lot of his books, and some of them are from this era. That's amazing. It just depends. I'm not sure if I got anything relating to philosophy, but there is stuff here that's like basic physics. I might have gotten that. Epistemology, science of knowledge, devoted to understanding of how a knower can know an object of knowledge. Let's see, there's a few pages here that separate. And then we get to January 27th, 1941. Physical theory, math theory, functional theory. August, Platonism. References, science of mechanics, Archimedes, Leonardo da Vinci, statics, Galileo, Newton. Let's see. Northrop believes Christianity gets its love from the Greeks. See Fourth Gospel. Platonic concepts embodied here. We also learn about Christianity from St. Paul, who was a student of Greek philosophy. Catholic Church, with hard-boiled, matter-of-fact Aristotelianism, has very little love in it. Love is in quotes. The Western world was in a demoralized condition. The barbarians were upon them. They had torn loose from their technical scientific knowledge. They had to have a theory to cling to. Read Henry Adams, Mont Saint Michel, and Chaitius. They had lost faith in Plato and had not replaced this with Aristotle. Chartres was built in this transition period to the Virgin Mary, the indeterminate dyad, the female principle, the religion of the East. Interesting. I wonder if some of this is, relying on some discoveries that have since been undiscovered. For instance, like, we don't really put a lot of faith in the Golden Bough anymore, but that used to be something that everybody put a lot of stock into. And some people still do, because they're not aware of the fact that it's not really the most up-to-date thing to be going on when it comes to actual history. Although it's still... There may be... I'm not saying there's nothing of value in the Golden Bough, but like how valuable it is when it comes to which knowledge you get out of it is considered to be different now than it was 100 years ago. Interesting little graph of scientists here and the fields that they were in. God the Father Divine, the West. So they were associating the feminine divine with the East and the masculine divine with the West in this class. Very interesting. February 3rd, 1941. Circle, Eudorus, ellipse, Kepler, geocentric hypothesis, Aristarchus of Samoa, I think. Samos. Aristarchus of Samos. Yeah, Samos would probably be like, I guess, the Greek city-state. Or a Greek city. It's in cursive, so it's a little hard for me to read sometimes. Heliocentric hypothesis. Kepler, Tycho Brahe, Copernicus. Plotinus prepares work for heliocentric hypothesis. Platonic distinction between the real and the sense world. Now, I'm really liking this distinction between the real and the sense world because it's actually acknowledging the sense world exists, that there is an actual world, a sensory world that we inhabit, and it's separate from the world of scientific fact. And this is something, I think, this is a distinction that's really been lost in modern times. We all kind of acknowledge there's just one world that everybody's in. And I'm not sure if that's really reflective of the actual facts that we get from people's experiences of how the world works, that people have differing memories of the same events, and that may just be a actual part of living experience. So that's a part of the sensory world, is to get a different record of it than someone else does. Whereas the scientific record will be the same for everyone. So I just think that whatever Jerry was listening to in this class, I would have loved to be in this class. Oh man, I'm glad he took such good notes. I feel like I was actually in the class to some extent. I'm going to have to read through this very thoroughly at some point to really get what he was getting here. Maybe I'll make some sort of copy of this that's in... Maybe I'll like type it out or something. I'm not sure. So you'll see more of this book in the future. I know the format of this video was a little bit strange. I just felt like for visuals, you could watch my copy of Kittens Game, even though it's not really that great. Oh man, I gotta be careful with these notebooks. It's a little hard to close. There we go. I don't want it to... There. It's so old, I don't want to mess anything up. But I think it's important that the contents actually be read. The philosophy class that Jerry took in 1940 and 1941 was very interesting. This was at Yale. Looks like it says address. There's a line that says address, and it says 721 Jonathan Edwards. Maybe Jonathan Edwards was his teacher, and 721 was the room, since this is a notebook specifically for one class, it looks like, and then the others would have been for other classes. Okay. Gosh, I wish... I'm gonna have to do so much research. Anyway, so that's another selection from the Library of a Nuclear Physicist. Like if you like this video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions. This one's a bit informal. If you have any quibbles with how I'm playing Kittens Game, I want to briefly mention that here are my stats. So this is actually my 12th run, and I'm trying to just gain some Paragon by getting as many kittens as possible. So that's my explanation for what's going on here. My strategy is to idle as much as possible. So anyway, catch y'all later with some more physics or something else. Who knows? Stay safe and peace.